Hello and welcome to another episode of With Enough Prep Time. I'm your host, the Nerd Man, and today we're talking about Zack Snyder. And really, I wanted to have a discussion about my channel in general. Especially in the run up to Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, I've often got this feedback on my channel as if people think that I somehow hate Zack Snyder, or I'm a Snyder hater, or and even when I've had some discussions on other channels, I think people kind of approach me from that perspective that I kind of denounce Zack Snyder, and the same kind of thing goes a little bit with Patty Jenkins as well. And what prompted me really to do this video was I went back to watch Monster by Patty Jenkins, and I went back to watch Man of Steel by Zack Snyder. It's lockdown, like where I am, and I wanted to see what Patty Jenkins was like as a writer, and also to see again Man of Steel and see if my mind had been changed all these years later. I think I've only seen Man of Steel maybe 2.5 times. No, I've actually seen it maybe 3.5 times, because I saw it 3 times in the cinema, and then I tried to watch it at home, and I couldn't get into it the first time I saw it. But every once in a while I've watched clips and scenes, and out of context and stuff like that with Man of Steel. And so watching it the other day, I kind of because I spent so much time criticizing its faults, even though I've always said I understand why people like it. I really see it. I see that there is a realism to it that I think is a good direction for Superman. I think putting Superman in a more realistic situation is actually the way to go with the character. I just don't know that Man of Steel pulled it off in as good a way as, say, Batman Begins did for Batman, or even to a certain degree Wonder Woman did for Wonder Woman. Patty Jenkins' first movie, Wonder Woman. Now, in terms of like the DCEU, my favorite movies are Joker, Wonder Woman, and Shazam. I think those movies are pretty damn good. I think Wonder Woman has a bit more flaws than the other two, but I think that the heights of Wonder Woman are really, really high. When it's good, it's really, really good, and so I give it a little bit of leeway in terms of its flaws. But I did see all of the flaws, and I was hoping that they would be improved on in Wonder Woman 1984. But instead, all of the flaws of the first movie that I didn't like, all of the things I didn't like, were actually exasperated in Wonder Woman 1984, which was unfortunate. But anyway, Man of Steel was never like one of the highest ones I had in my DCU in my list of DCU movies. But it wasn't the lowest either. I mean, it was far from the lowest. I think it was about number 5, and I watched the movie again, and that hasn't really changed much. But what I'll say is this: I actually genuinely enjoyed Man of Steel watching it yesterday, and it made me reflect a little bit on all the fighting I've been doing. Like, in terms of this, is the only platform I have to fight to, for what this is all I've got. I mean, I love these characters so much. I can't tell you the amount of love that I really do have for Superman and Wonder Woman. I think I may technically be the biggest Wonder Woman fan on the planet. I'm not sure, but I think I may be. I mean, I've read a lot. I've read like biographies on the creators, how she was created. The same for Superman and Batman. By the way, I've just sort of deep dived into all the mythology, how they were created, why, because to me it's just a marvel that these three characters were created that were completely independent of each other, and yet their worlds match with each other so well, and they're so distinct from each other in all of these interesting ways. And then I've read a lot of their comics as well, like a lot of the stuff from the 90s, a lot of the stuff from the 80s, the golden age. I may not have read so much from the 70s and stuff like that, but definitely 80s and 90s. Watched a lot of the animated. I think I've watched everything of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, apart from like maybe the George Reeves show or something like that. But I've watched pretty much a lot of stuff from all of them, and I know them. I think I've got a pretty good handle on who the characters are, and it went so far that before Wonder Woman came out, the film, there was like, I was always debating with people like who were saying you can't do a Wonder Woman movie, mythology is too weird, and I was really inspired by Christopher Nolan. And at the time, I didn't think I was a very good writer, and I'm probably not, but like I certainly didn't think I was a very good writer. But at the time, I basically, challenged by all of these people who were saying that you couldn't do a Wonder Woman film, and really inspired by Christopher Nolan, and also really inspired by some of the trailers that were coming out for Man of Steel. I started writing before that, but like for some of the trailers for Man of Steel. So I wrote this kind of grounded take on Wonder Woman's origin story. So it had all of the mythological elements, but it was as if all of those mythological elements were happening in the real world. So, the character essentially lived on Themyscira and all of that kind of stuff. And she had all, the powers of the gods, and she was the champion of the gods. And, Steve Trevor did land on her island, and Ares was there and everything like that. But, when she went out into the real world with Steve Trevor, it was like our world. The technology was the same, the world was the same. Obviously there was a Metropolis, there was Gotham. It was a different in terms of the layout of what America is. So it was basically like I was trying to do what Christopher Nolan did for Batman, and what it seemed I thought Zack Snyder was doing for Superman, which was to place Wonder Woman in the real world. And I did a ton of research on Wonder Woman. And literally that whole period of time really saved my life. I did contemplate, like at that time, just before I started this writing process, and before I started reading all these comics, and because there wasn't much in terms of origin stories for Wonder Woman, I started looking at origin stories for like Superman, and that's when I really fell in love with Superman as well. I always liked him from the Chris Reeves days, but like I was always more of a Batman person before. But Superman quickly became my favorite superhero during that research I was doing for Wonder Woman. I was like, okay, let me see how you could do like these origin stories. So I was looking at Batman origin stories, Wonder Woman origin stories, Shazam, everything on all of the DC characters. And what I realized is like what what these stories were actually, they were modern mythology. This was, and also I started reading Greek mythology as well because of this. And as enamored as Zack Snyder is with looking at these characters as mythological, larger than life characters, that's exactly what they were. And I think even it was Batman Begins that woke me up to the. I mean, the connection was always there for me, but never quite on that level where Batman Begins really mythologized, turned Batman into our modern mythology. But anyway, at that time, I was honestly, just before I started the writing process, I was contemplating suicide. Now, I don't think I would have done it because I'm too vain and arrogant, and I love myself way too much. But I was in a really miserable place. Like, my mother had just passed away. I'd had massive arguments with my family after my mother had died, and it meant that I was really estranged in one fell swoop from all of my family. And I ran away from the UK, and just when I'd lost all hope, Superman and Wonder Woman literally were there for me. All of the stories of their heroics and just the way they looked at life, their optimism, their willingness to see the good in people all the time, that moved me in such a way. Now, other things helped as well. It wasn't just Wonder Woman and Superman. Like, life is real. If my life was so bad that only Wonder Woman and Superman was all I had in my life, then I probably would have been in real trouble. But it was a significant part. I remember that very, very well. It was like revisiting my childhood. I remember, like, I was a huge comic book geek as a kid, but I was mainly into like the X-Men, some Batman. I read The Death of Superman and stuff like that. But in general, I was, just much, much more, so I was like a comic book kid basically, and I had like a huge stack of comics, but I wasn't like a really like a DC guy. I like the animated shows and that kind of thing, but I really hadn't delved in and really thought about it. But I got back into it again, like after years. My mother threw away all my comics and at one point, and so I kind of like became hostile towards comics, and then started getting much more into literature and all of these, much more of that kind of stuff. I was into at that point, and that lasted for maybe like 10 years or something, and then Batman Begins came out, and it reignited my interest in comics again, and slowly I got more into it. And then I saw the Wonder Woman animated, because I started getting into the animated DC universe, and I saw that Wonder Woman animated movie, and then I saw some of the Superman animated movies, and I was like, God damn, why have I never loved Superman and appreciated Wonder Woman enough? And then I was like, okay, I want to get the comics. And I was like, why have they not done a Wonder Woman movie yet? That's crazy. This is one of the best mythologies of any superhero. So I was just like enamored by her. And then I was getting into arguments with people where I was like friends and stuff like that, who were like, Wonder Woman's lame. What are you talking about? And I was like, no, you've got to watch this thing. And I was, reading my own, doing my own readings. And getting more into a mythology even beyond the animated film. And I was just like, the more people were like, you can't you can't do a Wonder Woman movie. I was just like, this is fucking, because I could see a Wonder Woman, a complete Wonder Woman movie in my head, that would really fit like modern sensibilities. And so I ended up, because, sorry, when I was a kid, I used to write, but then I'd given up writing as well. So, because I just thought I wasn't good enough. And so I just started writing notes years like after I was getting in these arguments, just notes on a Wonder Woman movie, on a Martian Manhunter movie. And it got me into my love of writing again, weirdly enough. And before I knew it, I'd written, a whole fucking treatment and script on Martian Manhunter, like a modern day Martian Manhunter, and how that would work in a like realistic kind of way, and a modern day Wonder Woman, how that would work in a more realistic, grounded Nolan approach to Wonder Woman as well. And I'd even written like a big notes on a Superman movie, like as well. And so it was that just joy in exploring these massive worlds and going back to Greek mythology. And with Martian Manhunter, I started studying about astronomy and like the different planets, and how life could evolve on those planets, and trying to figure out a kind of scientific grounded way that people could evolve to have telepathy, for instance. It was like wild back then. And I just I fell in love with the DC universe. And this takes me to Zack Snyder and his movies, and why Man of Steel was such a dagger to the heart when I first saw it. Because I was like, finally, people are going to see what I see in Superman. Because, as I said, during this whole research period, Superman, even though I was writing Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter mostly, Superman became far and away, for me, the most important comic book character of all time. I thought he rivaled Batman, and his world was just expansive and fascinating, especially when it was more grounded and real. The implications of what a Superman would be in the real world was just like, it was, I've never thought about it like that. I always thought about it in the Chris Reeves, Superman, everyone loves Superman, right? And to see a different version of Superman in the comics where, there were real world implications to him actually existing, and that, like Krypton was a real alien world, and, futuristic alien world. And there were other planets even at war with Krypton, like they lived in a Krypton was in one of the comics, Earth One was in a star system where two of the planets had life on it, and they had gone to war with each other. And it blew my mind, Superman. I just was like, I want people to love this character because there's so much story to be told here. And I began to even appreciate like Chris Reeves more. Like, I hadn't watched the Chris Reeves movies for a long time. And I was like, I went back to those, and I was like, oh man, Chris Reeves is so excellent. No wonder I could just endlessly watch him as a kid. It really brought me back to that, and watching Lois and Clark, and how I loved that show, and how I loved Lois Lane as a character as well. And I love the relationship between Lois and Clark, especially the beginning where she doesn't know, who he is. And all of those things just kind of, really came to mind. And, I was so excited for Man of Steel. I absolutely adored The Watchmen. The Watchmen was I think at the time, I would have said The Watchmen was my favorite comic book movie. I was like, while everyone was talking about The Dark Knight and Batman Begins, I was like, yeah, they're great. And I love Batman Begins particularly. But to me, what Zack Snyder did with Watchmen, I was just like, wow, that is just a whole different level of comic book story than I've ever even contemplated. And I loved it. And I thought, this is going to be so exciting. If he can respect the mythology of Superman the way he respected the mythology of the Watchmen, you know, tirelessly, laboriously, trying to recreate the panel for panel almost this story. If he could do that for Superman, I thought, you know, people, this would be an Oscar-worthy movie. People would be in tears in the cinema. And so what I got was, was quite shocking when I realized what he'd actually created was much more of just an action movie. You know, he didn't really, for me, capture the spirit of the hero that is Superman, first of all, and what makes him so special, that the odds of him landing with this kindly family who imbue him with these great virtues that allow him to be the most heroic hero. That is the beauty of Superman as a story for me. At the center of it is, you know, the planet is about to explode. It's this big operatic drama, but really, Superman, if he landed anywhere else apart from the Kents, he would be this horrible dictator, this terrible tyrant, or this indifferent god that would be scary. But instead, he's the best of humans, and we look up to him and aspire to be him. And because of how he was raised by the Kents. And I don't think Zack Snyder's film captured that at all. In fact, Zack Snyder's film was the alternate, almost Elseworld story of what would happen if Superman was raised by parents who just weren't, you know, that great. And then there was some illogical stuff in the movie as well. But my point to this video is to say that I don't hate Zack Snyder for what he did or dislike him. I understand his creative decisions. And I actually think that on the technical level, Man of Steel is probably the best movie in the DCEU. It's a technical marvel. The action set pieces, all of that. I mean, to me, when I watched it the first few times and I was watching the action, I didn't really care about this Superman. So it was just, I was just like, oh, when is this going to end? When is this going to end? But watching it again and watching it with fresh eyes yesterday, I was able to actually block out all of the things that I, you know, the mistakes and the logical, how would you call it? The plot holes that are definitely there. They're all over the place. The storytelling is still a mess in Man of Steel. There's no doubt about it. It's an absolute mess. But I was able to overlook that and just go on the journey with the film. And I thought Zod was more badass than I remembered him. And he had a lot of cool little lines. And I do think that Zack Snyder captured at least the surface of Superman, if not anything, you know, any depth about the character. So he captured like a surface level of Superman, not the inner spirit and depth of the character. So I still have the same problems, but I was able to enjoy it. And I just want to say this, like, I obviously have made it clear, like, I don't want to restore the Snyderverse. And, you know, with Patty Jenkins, I mean, she made this beautiful Wonder Woman movie. And I think she's a hell of a director. I was watching Monster the other day, and I thought it was fantastic. And she really knows how to bring really great performances out of her lead actors. But with the two of them, it's like I want to believe in them again. I'm hoping that this Zack Snyder Justice League will make me believe in him the way I believed in him after the Watchmen. That's what I'm hoping, that I can once again believe in him. And one day I hope to stand with everybody and be like, actually, DC, restore the fucking Snyderverse. Cut the bullshit, because your ideas are whack. You're trying to turn these mythological characters into Marvel-like cartoon characters, and that's not what they are. They are modern-day mythology, and they deserve better. Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, Flash, Martian Manhunter, Shazam. These guys deserve to be treated at the highest level in terms of the approach to filmmaking. You don't want some kind of universal tone of just like this cartoonish reality. So one day I hope to be able to stand behind everyone and say, restore the Snyderverse. And I especially want my faith restored in Patty Jenkins. I'm going to go and watch Cleopatra, and I'm going to go and watch, a Star Wars movie, because I think she's such a lovely lady. And I think Zack Snyder as well is such a great guy. For him to have gone on to all of these YouTube channels and done interviews with his supporters, he's a fantastic human being, a humble human being with an incredible amount of talent. And so is she. She's just so clever, so enthusiastic and infectious that you want her to succeed. But I still don't trust them with these characters from their performance. That's it. It's not a personal thing. It's not a, it's just, as much as I like them, these characters mean so much more to me. They helped me through the hardest fucking times of my life, and they gave me such joy, and I just want them treated properly and done right. So yeah, that's it. That's really it. It was just like a personal video that I wanted to share with people. And yeah, so thanks so much. I'll see you on the flip side, and please like, subscribe for more content, and yeah, see you on the flip side. I love you 3000.